In a small, forgotten village nestled deep in the United States, silence wasn't just a part of life, it was a rule. No one spoke too loudly after dark, and windows were always locked before the last traces of sunlight faded. It had always been this way, but no one dared to explain why. One night, just past midnight, I noticed something strange across the street. My neighbor's house, usually dark and lifeless, had a figure standing motionless in the upstairs window. At first, I thought it was a trick of the shadows, but then I saw it. A tall, thin figure dressed in tattered white clothes, standing eerily still. It had no face, no features, just a blank, hollow shape staring in my direction. I tried to convince myself it was a curtain caught in the wind, until it moved, slowly, deliberately, as if it knew I was watching. The next night, it was closer, no longer in the window, but standing on the porch, its head tilted unnaturally, its white garments now stained with something dark. By the third night, it was at my window. I never heard footsteps, never saw it move, but it was there, watching, waiting. And then, the knocking began. I held my breath, my body frozen as the knocks grew louder, slow, rhythmic, a pattern that felt deliberate, as if the thing outside was toying with me. I wanted to move, to grab my phone, but a deep, suffocating fear kept me locked in place. The lights in my house flickered, just for a second, but when they stabilized, the knocking had stopped. I dared to inch toward the window, my fingers trembling as I parted the blinds just enough to peek outside. The porch was empty, the night was still, but just as I exhaled in relief, my heart seized in my chest. The figure was inside my neighbor's house again, only this time, it wasn't in the window. It was standing behind their front door, facing me. I wanted to believe I was imagining things, that it was some awful trick of the mind. But then something changed. The figure raised its hand, fingers stretching unnaturally long, and it pressed its palm against the glass. The door creaked open just an inch, revealing darkness beyond. That's when I realized the house had been abandoned for over a decade. My breath hitched as my phone vibrated violently in my pocket. I pulled it out with shaking hands, the screen flashing an unknown number. Against every instinct screaming at me to ignore it, I answered. A whisper slithered through the speaker, low, hollow, familiar. "Let me in." I stood frozen, the phone still pressed against my ear. The voice on the other end was neither male nor female, just a distorted whisper, hollow and stretched, like it was speaking from somewhere far beyond this world. I couldn't move, I couldn't breathe, but then I heard something else. Knock, knock, knock. Not from the door, not from the window. It was coming from inside the house. A cold wave of dread crawled up my spine. I turned, my body stiff, my eyes scanning the darkness behind me. Every room was silent. The air felt heavier, thicker, like I was being suffocated by something unseen. My heartbeat pounded in my ears, drowning out every rational thought. And then, from the hallway, I saw it. The figure, standing in the shadows, its faceless head tilted too far to the side, its white clothes stained with something dark and dripping. It wasn't supposed to be here. It had been outside. It had been across the street. How was it inside my house? I took a step back, my breath coming in short, sharp gasps. The figure didn't move, but something else did. A whisper coming from behind me, not from the phone anymore. It was closer, right against my ear. "You shouldn't have looked." The lights flickered again, longer this time. The darkness swallowed everything for what felt like an eternity. And when they came back on, the figure was gone. But something had changed. My front door, which had been locked, was now wide open, and outside, in the cold night air, the street was no longer empty. Figures, dozens of them, faceless, dressed in white, standing still, every single one of them staring directly at me. Then, as if they all shared a single twisted mind, they took a step forward, and the lights went out.